Hi, it is February 9th, and we're here at the Little House of the Ditch with Rob Khouri, the Italian craftsman who did all the tile work. And I'd like to do a tour of the house and have him explain the tile choices and the process of how you go about selecting tile for a house when you build it. So go ahead, Rob, you got the show.
Well, first I want to say how much of an honor it has been to do this house for you. On my end, for you, Chuck, it's been quite an honor, and I'm excited to even go through and do something like this. I've never done it before, so bear with me. At the end of the day, when all the material comes to me, especially with me, I like to, alongside Johnny Sciano, we like to. That's how busy I am. But I like to go through all the different aspects of how we can make it even better. Where, case in point, where we're about to head to, the original design was very simple, very, very simple. But I like to throw in a little here and there's that I've picked up along the way doing this over 25 years. So let's start there with the guest bathroom.
All right, and that's exactly why I nicknamed you the Maestro, because of the ideas that you have. Now, this is the guest bathroom, and my wife Belinda worked with a designer, and the original plan was to put the tile in a brick pattern on the back wall, and then use the accent horizontally. Now, tell me what your take on that was.
Well, looking at this, that's to me. I'm always moving and shaking when it comes to designing and when I create. I don't like traditional things. Some things I do, depending on whether of its timeless value. And that's where Johnny comes in a lot, is he loves elegant and timeless. Whereas I do as well. Like, that's where me and him are originally clicked with each other. But with me being in the trade as long as I have and seen and done so many different things, I took the whole border design and said, listen, wait a minute. A beautiful facet of things now is running a waterfall effect. When I say a waterfall effect, the reason why I call it a waterfall effect is because that's where the water is. When you have a plumbing wall and water's coming out, to me, that's where the water is. A waterfall effect would be obviously a vertical transition of material separate from the field material that's going on the shower walls.
And of course, I love the idea when you said it, because I wasn't really crazy about the horizontal look. We're trying to figure it out. And also,
and this wall, because we're taking the accent away from it of having that little border, I said, well, with this wall, we can create what's called a herringbone. Everyone loves a herringbone. It's beautiful. It looks like jewelry when it's done, as you can see. Especially when you try to connect vein where you can, it just comes out phenomenal.
And then we have the little shelf in the back, that little alcove.
Originally, that was a single little 12 by 12 niche. I said, no. If you have people here, or guests and things, because this is a guest bathroom, you're going to need a lot of room for all their different things. So I take all of these things into consideration and gave you two different, I call a spa shelf. I don't call it a niche because a spa shelf is a lot wider. It can hold a lot more things. It's something you would see at a spa, when you get a massage and stuff like that. And if you ever use their shower facilities, you'll see that's where I got that idea from. What I was going to go into was this here is basically the Schluter edging I use to picture frame. Then I use a marble sill to flare out, and maybe a little insert of a marble sill here to hold everything. This is my design. A lot of guys like to take credit for it, and I'm sure someone maybe came up with it somewhere else in the country at some point. I know here in North Carolina, I was the first one to start doing this, and many have copied me, and I take it as a compliment. However, I do like to get a little credit for that.
There you go. Well, now you will. All right, let's move to the kitchen, because the kitchen, this tile, when I saw the price list, is $42 per square foot, and I but it looks like it turned out every bit of it worth it. So go ahead and explain the process.
This is a lot of of connecting and basically trying to make it appear as random as possible. But there's actually a science and math to it to get it to do what you want it to do. This has, if you look, it's got beautiful brass pieces in here. Almost looks gold. Also with the Calcutta, you have a little bit of Carrara. I mean, you have a mix of such beautiful pieces of marble. I was excited actually to work with this. A lot of guys shy away from higher end material. I don't. I get more excited about it because I know what it's going to look like when I get done with it. And that's where the artistry comes in, you know, like, and the craftsmanship, because a lot of the times guys get material like this, they don't want to play with it. And if they do play with it, they're shaken. They're terrified that it's not gonna come out the way it does in the picture. I try to make it look better than the picture. That's my thing.
Yeah, it looks spectacular, particularly under the window here. How it becomes this the baseboard there for the.
Yeah, it flowed beautifully. But again, it's a lot of math. There's a lot of. If you notice, each piece is a different size, different width. So it's a lot of math even in the beginning from the bottom up. You know what I mean? A lot of guys. With me, I don't have a rule of thumb. It's more of a Freemasonic thinking when it comes to layouts. With me, it is a lot of numbers. It is a lot of. Everybody always asks, how do you start? Where do you start with this area? Where do you start? Every area is different. Any tile guy that tells you differently, you be careful. It's amateur.
Well, you really knocked it. You really knocked it out of the park here. So let's go upstairs now and look at the masterpiece you did in the master bath. All right, now we're going to go into the master bath here. What? What are you doing? What are you doing in my tub here?
I was just imagining what it would be like. I always create things like this, and I never get to use them.
There you go.
I thought this room was phenomenal from day one as far as what the designer originally came up with. What we found, what designers fail, sometimes designers don't take everything into consideration, especially at the tile stores. Again, blowing up. But anyway, especially at tile stores. And tile stores are amazing, okay, when it comes to having everything you could ever want, because they go all around the world to get the material. However, sometimes I don't take everything into consideration. When I say that, remember originally they wanted a border around the room. It wouldn't have worked in this situation because you have wraparound cabinets. My brain started going. I said, let's shrink the border, if you remember. The border being a chevron pattern. I did like the idea of the modern horizontal stack layout of a 12 by 24 with a nice joint, skinny, you know, and then putting something to basically accentuate the floor. Then when it came to coming up here, we wanted to center this tub and we wanted to change up our design, because to the eye, when you come in and see a room, maybe you have the same material, but to me, to be boring and just run it to where it just all flows together, sometimes that works. In a situation like this, I didn't think it would. I thought to myself, if we created something different as far as patterns go, it would accentuate the tub deck. And that's where we came up with a diagonal of doing it. If you look closely, it's hard to tell because the joints blend so nicely. But as you can see, it just flows, and it doesn't take away from the eye. If anything, it's kind of, you can tell that somebody cared about what they were doing in here.
Exactly. And one of the things is we had kicked around a lot of different ideas of what to do with this herringbone, because we had a lot of this herringbone left over because the plan was to use more of it. And we've kicked around ideas of using it on the top somewhere or using it on these front panels, and we finally decided by consensus that less was more.
That's right.
Because behind us here, we have the master shower stall.
Yes.
And let's flip the lights on. Flip the light on in there.
Which is a totally different material.
Right.
And again, with this, I really, that modern contemporary feel to it, to give it a little more, how do you say, je ne sais quoi, a special something to it, is in in the material itself, because it's a beautifully polished and has a whole different lightness going on than what we used, obviously, in the rest of the bathroom.
Now, one of the Maestro's ideas that he came up with is Belinda had picked this accent tile for this little niche here, and then Rob suggested mirroring that niche over on the opposite wall there, which was just an absolute brilliant idea that really sets it off. So that's the type of creative input you get. You know, if you hire Rob, you just aren't you know. He will think outside of the box and come up with better ideas than whatever your designer came up with.
And originally they wanted a foot shelf here. I said, well, let's put a marble seat. You have the room, you know. It's all in the real estate of the shower as far as size goes with something like this. But this right here, I thought was just perfect in case, you know, I get tired. Well, not necessarily me.
There you go.
But you guys get tired when you take. So everybody does when they're bathing, you know. So it's a nice little extra. And again, with this whole idea, I thought right away, because whenever I have leftover material, especially when it's a little pricey, you don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? So the whole thing about it is let's see what can we do with it. What can we do with it? And that's where ideas start coming. They start flowing. The homeowner says, "Hey, let me hear what you got, what you think," and boom, you have magic.
Okay, now let's move to the final masterpiece. Is one of the features of this house is that it is along the Intracoastal Waterway here in Southport, North Carolina, and St. James Plantation. And so one of the things we did is we put a sunroom with a breakfast bar in there, and the tile in the back here is really one of the highlights of this room.
I agree. Not just because I did it, but also that this particular material, literally, as you said earlier, when the sun first hits it, it starts to glisten. You know, the glass and the marble, you know, the Carrara mix. Oh, it's just elegant. And it was very, very, for me. Like I said, I love things that that flow nicely, and that flowed perfectly. You have a beautiful home. I love this area. I can't say enough about it. And you were a joy to work for, Chuck.
Well, thank you so much. All right, well, turn around so I can get your name and number on the back. If you need an artist, and that is really true, because Rob is truly the maestro. There's his contact information, and one of the funnier things was that when Rob did this section of the backsplash here, we ran short of tile. He didn't estimate the tile. So somebody else came in and estimated the tile. So he came up like 6 inches short. So I marked down here on the counter that it was Maestro's Unfinished Symphony, and he came back and did it. So thank you, Rob, for an excellent job.
Yes, sir.
I can't recommend him high enough. So okay, well, let's wrap this up then. Thank you.